Midnight Paranormal recommends, if you experience anything inexplicable, consult a mental health professional first. Viewer discretion is advised.
Television is experiencing a shortage of ideas. When reality shows are repeated over and over again, and the faces are always the same. A strange phenomenon that is spreading uncontrollably like a virus, in which the inhabitants of the Argentine Republic are destroying their television sets. Television sets that fly from great heights and crash onto the pavement, turning to dust. Appliance store chains no longer sell smart televisions. The trend has changed. Humans now compulsively buy radio equipment and headphones. Passengers get into taxis and ask the drivers to turn up the volume because they want to listen closely. Families having dinner without a dumb box to distract them. Night workers who feel accompanied and enjoy every hour together. Boys and girls of all ages who listen and talk about what's happening in their WhatsApp groups. The nights in Argentina are changing forever. All united in the same radio show, a place where the listeners are the main characters, real horror stories told in the first person. Welcome to this one-way journey. This is
the radio ritual of every night.
Paranormal Night.
Tell us your paranormal story live by calling 1127 84 1073. Record it in audio and send it by WhatsApp to 1127 84 1073.
Good evening, how are you? Welcome girls and guys once again to The Ritual. Tonight is Tuesday night. Today is December 9th, 2025. And we have 3 hours of stories ahead. 3 hours of radio. This is
Midnight Paranormal. Ha 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 ha. Real stories told by their protagonists.
first person, just how we like it. Welcome, okay? To talk live, 11/27/84/1073, that's where we are, okay? 11/27/84/1073. Send WhatsApp audios, tell your paranormal stories, 11/27/84/1073. You can also write by email, trasnocheparanormal@gmail.com. trasnocheparanormal@gmail.com. I'll be waiting for you live over there. How are you, Hector? Good evening. I want to tell you something that happened to me a few years ago at a friend's house. There were 4 of us friends, just a chill night with snacks, PlayStation, and chatting, nothing unusual. But as soon as I walked through the door, I felt something strange in the house. I'm not saying it was something heavy, but it wasn't normal either. That feeling of walking into a place that has a history behind it. The hallway was long, it smelled damp, and there was a dim yellow light that didn't quite reach every corner. From the start, I felt like we weren't alone. The night went on as usual. We stayed up late playing video games and messing around like always, and in the end we decided to sleep there. Everyone picked their spot, and I got a bed near the door of the room. We must have turned off the lights around 5 in the morning. The room was almost completely dark, with just a few slivers of light coming in through the cracks in the blinds. I fell asleep at some point. I don't know how long, but when I woke up, everything began. The first thing I saw was the door, and in the doorway, standing a few feet away from me, there was a figure. It was something humanoid, completely black. A dark, well-defined silhouette. It didn't blend in with the darkness of the room. It stood out. It didn't have a face. You couldn't see its eyes or mouth, but I could clearly feel that it was looking at me. I knew it. It wasn't a shadow from the street or a passing car. It was standing there inside, steady. I stayed still, my mouth dry, breathing softly so I wouldn't make any noise. I could hear my friends breathing as they slept, and the silence of the house above everything else. The figure didn't move, didn't walk, Didn't make any gestures, didn't make a sound. It was just there, fixed in the same spot in the doorway, staring at me. And honestly, Hector, I'm used to things like this. It's not the first strange thing that's happened to me. That's why deep down I knew it wasn't there to hurt me. I didn't feel it was bad, but not good either. It was pure presence. To me, they're shadow people. They appear when they want to be seen and nothing more. Time felt endless there. I'd blink and it remained. It didn't fall apart or change shape until suddenly, without any noise, smoke, or anything strange, it started to fade away right in front of me. First, the outline started to blur a little and then it was just gone. Just like that, all of a sudden. One moment it was there, then gone. I could finally move, so I sat up, got out of bed, and walked around the house. Hallway, kitchen, living room, bathroom. I opened doors, looked out the windows. Everything was silent. Everyone was asleep. No windows open, no strange lights, nothing out of place. After calming down, I returned to the room, lay down, and slept as if nothing happened. But that image, the silhouette standing in the doorway, is still etched in my mind to this day. Hector, this is my 7th story. Little by little, I'm telling you about my experiences through this medium. I'm not someone who writes every day, but I am consistent. Sending you a big greeting, congratulations on the Martin Fierro, a hug from La Matanza, a hug for you too. Good evening, hello.
The show is watched a lot here in Uruguay.
That's great.
I imagine it's the same all over South America. No, let me tell you about 2 things that happened to me. I'll tell you something. I'm not gullible at all when it comes to anything parapsychological or anything weird like that. I don't believe in much, barely even in God, just so you know. But I'm straightforward and often have issues with people because I don't believe in anything. This could hurt me someday. When people discuss aliens, I watch your shows, but everyone believes what they want. I see it and think it's nonsense. But things happen to me that with the whole Ouija board thing.
Okay.
That we've done it. We're talking about 5 years ago. And well, strange things have happened to me, but I still can't believe what happened to me. Let me repeat. My eye drooped at home, but I think it's nothing serious. Just in my mind, maybe. I don't know. But I'm telling you something that to me is in my mind. But it happened to me with the Ouija board game. It's not the Ouija, the one with the glass. We've done it. Sorry, I'm a bit slow to speak. What happens is that since people walk behind me, I close the door. I don't like anything coming in. It bothers me. I light a cigarette, old habit. I can't get over it. Well, look, we played the Ouija board game, and at that moment, when we played the Ouija board game, some shadows appeared. Because all I did was, I didn't ask questions, I just put my finger on it, and the Ouija board moved. There were 5 of us, and the cup moved. The thing is that on my part, I tried to lift my finger off the Ouija board, but I couldn't take it off. I don't know if you understand me, I got stuck.
Okay.
I saw shadows, like the ones cast when you walk. Standing shadows, dark outlines, not like normal shadows, but they stood upright. And they moved from one side to other, they crossed the other shadows. There were like 4 or 5, I don't know how many, because they kept switching places. And so many that I don't know if there were more or less. I estimated 4 or 5. Well, my friends didn't see what I saw. I don't smoke weed, drink alcohol, use drugs, or wear glasses. I have no vision problems. Those people, or rather those shadows, they were looking at me. I told them, I see shadows there. While one of my friends was talking to those people, asking stupid questions that they answered, right? When one of my friends who was doing the thing, when we finished playing, after they answered all our questions, my friend didn't, you blow on the glass and throw it back. I'm not sure how it works. That ritual you use to end the conversation. Well, he didn't do it. He just put it away. We were cracking up laughing. Some were scared, and especially those who believe in that. Not me. I'll say it again, and I hear a noise. We heard the sound of glass shattering. We went to check, and nothing was broken. We opened the spot with the glasses and cups where we played that game, and it was broken, the glass.
Okay.
Now, we all looked at each other. We all freaked out. We laughed. I lit a cigarette. We laughed. We cursed at each other. The guy, the owner of the house, said that what happened in the house stayed in the house. That's how it had to be. We told him, you're not going to get anything out of this, man. And well, that was that. When I got home later, because we went out for drinks, ate pizza and then left. And we're discussing something from a while back. And when I was leaving, like you guys say on the bus, well, under the bus, I'm walking, heading to my house. It doesn't drop me off close. I'm walking down the street and I feel like someone is watching me. I look back, no one is there, but I sense a gaze from the left side behind my head. I look back and behind the tree, it was shadow watching me, similar to the shadow they were there at the moment when we were playing the cup game. When I look back, it sees me, stays for about 2 seconds, and then goes back and hides behind again. I walk faster, swallowing hard. I glance back. It's behind the column, always getting closer. I swear to you, I don't believe it, but I was nervous. It's a strange feeling of believing because of what you're seeing and not believing because your mind could be playing tricks on you. I keep walking. The shadow kept hiding, always heading to my house and getting closer. It hid in a garbage container, then behind trees, moving from one to another.
I imagine you started to believe, right?
It was behind an old car, and well, Mum, I'm getting home. I lock everything up, always swallowing hard, and I went to get a glass of water, and it's already late. Now at 2:30 in the morning, I go to bed quickly. I have an interior window that was half open. When I close the curtain, I see that shadow next to the gate of my house. Down below, there's a column, the light pole, and it was behind the light pole, staring at me. I closed the curtain. With my eyes wide open, I was swallowing hard, trying not to swallow out of fear. I'm not sure, maybe so it wouldn't be heard. I just froze, I got into bed and got a little scared. I still don't really believe it, or maybe I do a bit more. But it's a strange feeling of believing and not believing. I don't know how to explain it. When I lie down in bed and I feel something inside my room, I turn on the light, there was nothing. I'm a big guy and don't scare easily. Whatever it is, I don't know. I get ready, stand my ground, and do this on the bed, I was sleepy, yawning, swallowing, and my eyes wide, glancing around. I don't feel anything. I turn off the light. I turn over to one side. I hear a noise. I don't turn on the light again. I open my eyes. Impossible to sleep, right? I couldn't sleep because I was expecting something. The door and house were locked. I locked everything. I lie down and quickly feel sleepy because I'm tired. I'm the kind of guy who starts yawning at 10:30, by 12 or 11, 12. From 10:30 on, I start yawning, getting sleepy. I usually get up at 4 for work at 5, but that day I didn't have to work because it was Saturday night turning into Sunday. I lie on my left side, then my right, then my back, and I hear a voice next to me say, "These are the exact words, okay? This is happening because you played the cup game." Now, I turned on the light right away. There was no one there, but I heard it clearly. It was a slow voice, a bit hoarse, but it echoed within me. I turned on the light immediately, but no one was there. I couldn't sleep all night, and I didn't feel anything at all the next day. I talked about it with friends. At that time, the first cell phones were around. I sent them a message on short SMS. The guys were cracking up at me, and I was laughing too. I was exhausted. I slept through the whole Sunday nap, and absolutely nothing happened to me. It was something I both believe and doubt. It happened to me, and I mentioned it. Now, I slept from Sunday to Monday with no further issues. That was what echoed in me, that thing that followed me. That cup game isn't a big story. I have other experiences that I don't think are related to the parapsychological or paranormal. Call it whatever you want. I'll tell you about it another time. But that's what happened to me. That's what happened to me. I don't know. Call it weird story. That's what I call it. I won't bother you anymore, Héctor.
No, you're not bothering me, man.
Good luck.
Actually, my friend, I do love it. I just don't like that those things happen to you. I love that these events happen because they also make skeptics like you question things or put you in check. I'm telling you this in a good way. That's how you introduced yourself. There is a supernatural world that we can't see. Just because we don't see it or can't perceive it with our 5 physical senses doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And there's an example for you, did you notice? No, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. How's it going, Héctor? Good evening. I want to tell you something that happened in my family and that to this day still scares us to remember. This was in the middle of 1983, when we moved to a new house built on a vacant lot in Ensenada. The house was alone, there was nothing around. Lots of weeds, lots of silence. At first, everything seemed normal, but my brother, who was 10 years old at the time, started experiencing strange things. Every night, it was the same. Evening would fall and he would get sad and nervous. He said he was scared, that something was frightening him. We thought it was just kid stuff, that he wasn't used to the new house. We didn't think much of it until that night. One night my old man told him to go get water from the faucet in the backyard. My brother refused to go, said he was scared, and my dad got angry. He considered him stubborn, took him to the yard, and locked the door. The door was one of those old, heavy ones, with a really strong lock. Moments later, a tremendous bang hit the door. My brother pushed it with a strength that wasn't normal for a 10-year-old boy, and kicked it open in one go. He entered pale, sweating, heart racing, shaking. That's when my old man knew he wasn't lying. When he calmed down a bit, we asked him what he had seen. He told us that as soon as the door closed, he felt like something was coming at him. He saw a witch levitating before him. Her ragged clothes hung in strips, hair messy, face deformed. She hovered just above the floor, almost on top of him. That's what made him run in desperately. From that day on, he started saying more often that he didn't want it to get dark, that at night that thing would come to scare him. A few days went by one night, and we were all sleeping in the same room, but in separate beds. It was late. The house was completely silent. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream was heard. It was my brother. He jumped on top of my dad, who was asleep, and almost scared him to death. He was crying desperately. He couldn't speak. When he was finally able to breathe properly, he said someone whispered horrible things in his ear by the bed. When he opened his eyes, he saw a man's face at the window. He called him a Viking. Light hair, beard, face against the glass, staring at him. My old man, really pissed off, got up, sat on the bed, and started yelling insults at whatever was there, calling it a demon. He asked him why he was messing with a kid. Why didn't he come scare him if he was so powerful? That he should leave my brother alone. After that, my parents looked for a healer. The woman welcomed them and told them she could help us, that what was happening was no joke. She talked a lot about God, about praying, about protecting my brother. She said something very specific, that when my brother dreamed of a black bird flying away, that would be when he was cured. That bird would take the evil away from his life. Some time passed, and one morning my brother woke up feeling calmer. He said that he had dreamed of a big black bird that was near the house and then flew away. It flew away until it disappeared. From that day, things eased. He stopped screaming at night and no longer saw faces in the window or witches in the yard. We never knew why all that happened. The only thing we're sure of is that there was something evil attached to him, something that almost drove him crazy. Greetings, Héctor. I hope you can read it on the show. This story is real.
How are you, Héctor? Everything good? I'm Matias Yosengo. Well, I wanted to tell you a story that happened to me about 6 months ago last year around winter. I got off work, I worked the night shift, and well, I left at 6 in the morning, and when I was on the street, right where I live, well, I always take that street. Before reaching an intersection, there's a nursing home run by nuns. I was riding my motorcycle, looking all around, and well, it was 6 in the morning. I was alone, and suddenly, I saw... Before arriving at the nursing home run by nuns on a corner, something tall, fully dressed in beige, including the head, with glasses and very pale. The face was very white, but from the nose down, the chin and jaw, it was black. It seemed like someone who was going to take the bus. I thought, poor man, it's cold, but at the same time I was thinking, that's not normal. He was very tall, and his clothes weren't appropriate for the time of year we were in. I told myself to stay calm. It was nothing. I'll probably see him tomorrow again. From that day until now, I pass by there daily and never saw him again, so I really don't know. I'm not sure what I saw, but it honestly left me thinking. Every time I pass by, I never see him again, and I hope I don't. Anyway, that's the story. Just so you know, we always listen to the show at work.
That's great.
It's really good and keeps us company at night. Sending you a hug and greetings.
Greetings, Che. Thank you very much for your story. 11/27/84, 1073. 11/27/84, 1073. You can join live. You can write by email. trasnoshparanormal@gmail.com. Hello, good evening.
This was several years ago. I was still a girl. We were at the table in my house playing with two of my sisters. A friend of mine a friend of mine and the boyfriend of one of my sisters. Well, that we were five playing. I was, let's say, the one asking the questions, and on the right side of the table, we had the bathroom door. That was in February, right in the middle of February, when there wasn't even a single breath of air. And at one point I asked her, say, if there was anyone who wanted to make themselves known. It didn't happen right away, but after a few minutes, the bathroom door, which was open, slammed shut. And it was also kind of funny because my sister sat on one side of the table with her boyfriend next to her. Her boyfriend jumped on top of her and everyone started running away out of the house because they couldn't believe it. I mean, the door closed by itself even though there wasn't a single breeze. And then my mom she had to call a priest to bless the house to cleanse it. Because at night you could feel that the table, people would sit down, let's say. You could hear the noise from the table. One time, the stereo turned on by itself. And so my mom had to call a priest to cleanse whatever was in the house. So, well, that was my experience playing the cup game.
Well, it's not really a game. We've said that a bunch of times, right? I'm also going to say hi to her. Romina, Lamona, Carballo. Hi, Mona. Good evening.
Good evening. Paranormals, how are you?
The ritual begins with you from this moment to share paranormal news together. As we always tell you from Argentina and the world, we're going to talk about unidentified flying object voices on this paranormal night. In this case, we'll discuss Setúbal Lagoon in Santa Fe. Recordings captured on the waterfront created suspense. There is a woman who recorded psychophonies that investigators believe are from another dimension. In addition, the neighbors claim to have seen strange lights. Fishermen refer to the mythical creature, half fish and half woman, mermaids. This is impressive. A new mystery story is known in Santa Fe. The Setúbal Lagoon has reported unusual lights, metallic sounds, and a kind of singing coming from the water for some time now. Obviously, this gave rise to multiple speculations. The audio recording is really shocking. There are researchers who are analyzing the sound interferences. The question is this a paranormal phenomenon? Has it ever happened to you that you've been near the water and heard these sounds, as they say, metallic sounds, or like the sweet voice of a siren, they say? In this case, is it a myth or a legend? Reality or truth? Paranormal tales about lagoons focusing on fishermen who encounter strange experiences. So not just electronic voice phenomenon recordings, but also strange lights that appear in the distance. Tell us your paranormal story, if you have any, about lagoons, sightings, lights, or UFOs. At 1127 800 41073.
You know, I was just telling the community on the stream on my social media that I'm looking for a priest's outfit like the one from The Exorcist. I'm not sure what it's called. I read that it's called a chasuble or clerical or liturgical clothing. But I'm imagining the full priest outfit, not just a shirt and pants. That thing hanging down like a cassock. For Saturday to present The Exorcist. It's just that I can't find it anywhere. I don't know where to buy that. Is there anyone who can make it or who knows where to buy those clothes? Message me on Instagram at Héctor Locutor. Okay? I need it kind of urgently. Message me there at Héctor Locutor. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I want to be a priest, forget it. I want to be there. I want to really get into the role. It's not a black robe. I don't know if you know what the priest's clothing with the collar is like. It's like, I don't actually know what it's called, but you know what I mean, right? If anyone has the info, let me know. If not, a link to somewhere that sells it and I'll gladly buy it. Okay, a place where they rent costumes. But where? Mariana, are you there? How are you? Good evening. Hello, Mariana, are you there? Hello? What happened, Mariana? Are you there?
Hi, Hector. How are you?
Hello and welcome. We hear you and we are listening to your story.
No, my phone isn't working well, Hector.
Okay, it's having problems. That's strange. Really strange, right? Hector, how are you? I'm Mariella. This is the first time I've dared to share my story. I come from a very unusual family. My mom had 8 sisters. My grandparents had 12 daughters, of which only 9 survived, including my mom. All of them, every single one, were witches. I grew up seeing prayers, rituals, candles, strange things that seem normal to me. I came into the world with a twin. We were both born, but only I survived. I was the one who made it through childbirth as a newborn. Since then, I feel like I've been marked as if I was left here halfway between this side and the other. I've always talked to, heard, and seen people who have passed away. It's not pleasant, it's part of my life, but it's frightening. I'm on the street, in a house, in a hospital, anywhere, and suddenly I know I'm not alone. Even if no one else is there, I see shadows, figures, people who come up to me and talk to me as if they were alive. Sometimes they tell me names, dates, random words. I've lived like this my whole life, and you can't imagine what it's like to carry this through society. They look at you weird, they call you crazy, dramatic, a liar. That's why I hid for years, stayed quiet and acted like nothing was wrong, but inside I was losing my mind. I dream about events before they happen. I see places, people, or situations, and days later I experience them. It also happens to me with people. It's hard for me to look at them directly, because when I do, I know something is about to happen. I feel like I have to speak up. I've often been somewhere I didn't know anyone. Suddenly I felt compelled to say, call your dad, visit your mom, check on your son. Call that person urgently, something is wrong. Saying that is scary. The person is left frozen. They look at me without understanding. More than once I left the place feeling scared, embarrassed, thinking I was crazy. And later, with time, I found out it was true. That on that exact day, something serious had happened with that relative. There, the fear is doubled, not just for what happens to the other person, but for what I had felt. It's not easy to live like that. It's not a romantic gift or movie. It's eating, sleeping, working, and suddenly sensing someone behind you, hearing your name whispered, knowing you're not alone, seeing someone in the hallway, while the house is empty. That's why I'm grateful to you, Hector, because thanks to your show and the people who share their stories, you stop feeling so strange. It's such a relief to find others who've been through the same thing. I don't feel as alone or weird. Let me share another odd part of my life. When I was 15, we moved. As we unloaded the moving baskets, 3 guys stood on the sidewalk beside us. I went into the house and my brother was coming in behind me. He looked at me and said, "Don't even think about saying there's any spirit in this house, okay?" I replied no, but said, "I just met the love of my life, whom I'll marry and have 2 kids with." That was in 1981. On October 5th, 1983, we got married. To this day, we're still together, and yes, we have 2 kids. Like I said that day a few months ago, life took another strange turn and we ended up living again in the same house where we met. I've lived with this since I was born. The twin who didn't make it, the witch ants, the spirits I see and hear, the dreams that come true, the warnings I get, even if people look at me weird. Thank you for the space, for reading me, and for the Martin Fierro. Really, thank you for being there and for making so many of us feel like we're not alone. I'm Mariella, and everything I told you is real.
Hi, how are you, paranormal community? Héctor Rossi. I sat in the front row. I'm Ana from La Plata.
Hi, Ana.
I was in the front row with a friend at the Teatro Bar on October 19th at the last show you did here in La Plata. You talked to me and you talked to my friend. We were in the front row. Something paranormal just happened to me with my dog. He's a German Shepherd who sleeps with me, right next to me in bed. He's super affectionate and everything, but this is the fourth time that it's like he gets seizures, and the other times I didn't know how to calm him down. And today, because Gymnasia won, even if you don't believe it, because my abusive ex-husband was a Gymnasia fan, he is a Gymnasia fan. He didn't leave or pass away. Instead, he began having seizures, which is typical for the dog during special events or dates. Today, I did an exorcism on him. I wanted to go live, but they told me to wait until the next day. The thing is that now he's sleeping like an angel because I started to pray. I have a lot of stories that have happened to me. On November 3rd, something happened to me after the Day of the Dead. It was incredible. I also prayed. I have a St. Benedict ring. I prayed to St. Benedict. I prayed to St. Francis of Assisi. I'm devoted to the Virgin. Obviously, I'm Catholic. And I put holy water on my dog's forehead and started to pray for him. And then he calmed down, and now he's very quiet, but he's starting to have seizures. He's losing his fur. Well, in a year and 7 months, my mom and my sister passed away. I've told you that the ones who have passed away are my dad, my sister, and my mom. My mom died August 15th. All of them passed on the 15th. My dad on April 15, 1988. My mom on August 15, 2023. And my sister on March 15, 2025. I was left alone in life. I was with my friend because I asked him to come with me, since I knew that at some point I was going to get emotional. And when you came to talk to us, I couldn't believe it. I'm so grateful to you. I couldn't stay until the end. I mean, the exit. I stayed until the end, but I couldn't stay at the exit because we had things to do early the next day. But no, I started praying now. I prayed to our fathers. I prayed to Hail Marys. I prayed to St. Benedict. I prayed the prayer of St. Francis, and little by little it started to calm down. I put holy water on him and prayed. Today, on the Virgin's Day, I said, may her mantle protect you. Because I believe he is receiving all the bad things that are being sent to me. I am protected by St. Benedict. So, you mentioned on several shows that sometimes animals receive the evil that is being sent to you, or the witchcraft, or the bad things that people are doing to you. Sorry, that was very long, but please, I hope you play it on the audio because honestly, it just happened to me. It didn't happen to me days ago. Other things happened to me before and at other times. But the same thing happened to him several days and on special dates, not just any day. And now he's sleeping, calm, all covered up, right?
Well, that's good. That's good that he's better, right? Thank you. 11/27/84/1073. 11/27/84/1073. To talk live with us, there's more.
This night of mystery. Don't stay in the shadows. Subscribe for free to Midnight Paranormal and turn on the notification bell.
And if you want to support this channel, you can send a super chat so your message will be highlighted on the screen.
Or send a super sticker with spooky animations.
You can also become a channel member and unlock exclusive emojis, horror badges, and special content that only the brave can see. Your support helps us keep exploring the unknown, so go ahead and dive deeper into the darkness. Pay close attention to every second of this broadcast, because in addition to the stories from Héctor and the listeners, a voice from beyond might appear, interfering with your headphones. The Paranormal Night, Stories of the Living, Messages from the Dead.
Send us your story on WhatsApp at 11/27/84/1073.
Paranormal Night.
Hi Hector, how are you? I want to tell you something paranormal that happened to me 3 years ago. I was in a relationship living with our 2-year-old son. On weekends, we used to visit my ex-mother-in-law and stay there. I knew they had done things to scare her because I heard it. There was a goblin that bothered her and came in the afternoon making noise. I also heard a conversation with my ex-sister-in-law where they talked about seeing an old man crawling out of the bathroom. I was shocked and couldn't believe it. So I told myself that this was obviously going to be a lie and that they were making it up.
We went to sleep in my mother-in-law's room, which she gave us.
I told my partner I was a bit scared. We agreed I'd sleep first, then wake up, and he'd stay up. That way, they wouldn't scare my baby. When I realized it, he had already fallen asleep. Terrified, I hugged my little baby and turned on the television. I felt chains falling on me and the ceiling and heard things moving. I woke him up. In the morning, I was almost without any underwear. I couldn't believe it. I dreamed that someone was on top of me. I asked my partner what had happened and he told me absolutely nothing. My mother-in-law said that the goblin whom she calls Kuko had fallen in love with her. That's why he bothered her at night. She said that several times she woke up without any underwear. And that's when I understood everything.
Hector, a big greeting from Salta Capital.
We listened to the show with my mom and my 5-year-old son. The show is wonderful.
How are you, Hector and Mona? It's been a long time since I wrote to you, but I still listen to you on Spotify. This story happened to me here in Argentina in April of this year. We were traveling in Mendoza, specifically in Uspallata. Everything was going great. Magnificent views of the mountains, horseback riding, starry nights, pleasant weather, good food and good wine. We had rented a couple of domes where we were staying, my wife and I, and my brother-in-law and his girlfriend, respectively. One of the nights we were having a massage and relaxation session. The two girls were inside with the masseuses while my brother-in-law and I were outside talking. The darkness of the landscape was only faintly touched by the light of the moon and the starry sky of the mountains. Out of nowhere, in the middle of the conversation, I heard a chilling female scream, high-pitched, hoarse, and powerful at the same time, which ended in a sort of wailing cry, just as or even more spine-chilling than the scream before. Stunned, I looked at my brother-in-law and asked, "Did you hear that?" With his eyes wide open like two billiard balls, he said, "I don't know what that was, but I don't want to find out." He quickly rushed inside the dome where the girls were. The next day, we went to the hotel lobby and told the manager what we had heard. The young man, trying not to make a bad impression or anything negative on us, told us with a somewhat nervous laugh, "Maybe you heard the famous witch heron. You know, there's a little stream under the ravine." And he explained to us that there's a nocturnal bird, which is common in the area, that makes a characteristic sound, similar to a scream. To clear up any doubt, we searched online for a video and found the bird's sound was curious, but it was quite different from what we had heard. Given our insistence, the manager finally gave in a little and told us, "Well, I don't know what it could have been. But years ago, when they were building the main cabin of the hotel, several crews of workers quit, leaving the construction unfinished. They claimed to hear screams, laughter, and crying in the bushes, and noticed their materials were moved from storage. We still don't know what that eerie wail could have been, but I definitely believe it wasn't something natural, because every time we talk about it, at least for me, it gives me the same chills as when I heard it that night." Thank you, Hector and Paranormal team, for giving a voice to our stories.
Hello, Héctor. My name is Ezekiel. I'm from here in San Vicente de San Osor.
It happened to me once a long time ago. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was in my bedroom with the light on.
It was around 1 or 2 in the morning, with the door locked from the inside, obviously, and I was awake. Suddenly, the key started turning from the inside, as if someone was about to go out, but the key was turning by itself. And then after a while, I stopped sleeping in that bedroom. My daughter started staying in that bedroom. I once asked her, "Have you ever seen anything paranormal in the bedroom?" Yes, when I had. She told me, when I was on the computer, yes, I saw a little girl, and I asked her, "Weren't you scared at all?" "Not at all, Daddy," she said, so yeah. And right now the bedroom is empty, so it's unoccupied. There's always something else. You can tell the bedroom feels kind of sad.
What a great story, right? There's more. 11/27/84/1073. Hello, good evening.
During the pandemic, my dad passed away and was left in the hospital morgue due to the situation. I visit my mom to keep her company since she's alone. When I park at my mom's, I see a shadow in the garden. By the front door, there's a garden with a low fence, and I see a shadow crouch and enter the house. It was about 11:30 or midnight. So I asked my mom, what were you doing at the door? She said, no, I was in my room. I didn't go out. That was it. At around, this was 11:30, 12 at night. Around 2 in the morning, I was smoking. I opened the kitchen window to throw a cigarette outside into the dooryard. And when I open the window, I see a silhouette similar to my dad's. Exactly the same. I looked facing the window through the cigarette and closed the window. And well, it was really, really intense. Really intense.
Thanks for sharing that, okay? And there's one more. Hello, good evening.
Hello, Hector. Good evening.
I was first listening to the lady who said she listened to Campana and so on, the psychologist, and now I'm listening to what you're reading, which I was looking for. Some time ago, around this time of year, I started hearing horns, some strange horns, and I say, sometimes I'm with my wife, and I say, did you hear that horn? She asks, which one? Don't you hear that horn? It's a horn like a train that's coming, that gets closer and then goes away, but they're really loud horns, and she doesn't hear them. And, it's happened several times already that when that horn is heard and the sound ends, you hear the fire truck siren. It's like there was an accident and something happened. This is Jose from Campana speaking to you, Hector. This is kind of strange. If you can air it or call me, thanks.
No, thank you. Yes, of course, we'll put it on the air and we'll call you. 11/27/84/1073, folks. Paranormal-late-night@gmail.com. Paranormal-late-night@gmail.com. Don't forget to send emails. Interpreting your stories is what I enjoy most, and I think Mona does too. But you know how email has that, like that old-fashioned habit? For me, it's the closest thing to writing a handwritten letter, because it's not the same to send a quick WhatsApp as it is to sit down and write an email. Because I think the people who send us emails do it from their computers, and I think it has a special mystique. I'd love for you to send us a little message. tresnocheparanormal@gmail.com. That's our show's email address. Let's check what people are saying. Hello, good evening.
Hi, how are you? I wanted to tell my story some time ago. I can communicate with people from the other side without knowing them. It happened to me today. When I was on the bus, I ran into a lady and her daughter who had lost their son-in-law and daughter to leukemia. But they wanted me to communicate, but I couldn't do it because I don't know those people. I didn't even know who they were or their names.
Interesting. Can you expand on that or let me know before you go live on air? I'm interested in your story. How are you, Hector? Good evening. I'm Analia from Villa Constitucion, Santa Fe. I want to tell you something that happened in my house and left a mark on me. I live at the back of the property. My mom lives in front. There are two little houses on the same lot, hers in front, mine in the back, separated by a hallway and a yard. We've lived like this for years, each in our own space, but always close. One night I decided to go to bed early. I was tired, so I turned everything off and went to sleep in my room. Mom, as usual, stayed up a bit longer to close up her house. She told me what happened next the following day. She told me that she went out to close the front gate. It was already night, everything was pretty quiet. When she finished locking the gate, she looked up toward the back, toward the window that faces the kitchen, and that's when she saw him. In my kitchen, my dad was sitting there. He was sitting the way he always did, calm, looking at something he had in his hands like it was a book or a folder. At that moment, Mom heard the sound of the gate she herself was closing. My dad raised his head and looked her in the face. He stood up, turned, and walked to the bedroom as if it were completely normal. To be clear, my dad died 26 years ago. When my mom told me that, sitting in front of me, I could see the fear on her face. She wasn't making it up. She was nervous and serious. She told me every detail, his clothes, the way he sat, how he looked up, how he stood up and walked toward my room. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say to her. I broke down crying because I miss him so much. It's a void that was never filled. That same night I slept straight through. I didn't feel anything strange. I didn't hear any noises or anything. While I slept, my old man, as my mom saw, sat in my kitchen and then entered my room. Since I found this out, many nights when I turn off the light, I feel different. I walk through the kitchen and glance at the chair where she saw him sitting. Sometimes I get the feeling that if I turn around quickly, I'll find him there again. I'm not sure if he visited me, checked on me, or just passed by. The only thing I know is that my mom saw it clearly, and for us it wasn't a dream or a mistake. It was him. Thank you, Héctor, for reading my story and for this wonderful community you've created. My story is real.
Hello, good evening. Well, this happened to me with my family. We were at home, living with my grandmother at that time. She was bedridden, her leg had been amputated, she was hospitalized, and I was in Bernal. We were all eating together, my dad, my mom, and my two siblings. We were at the table and we felt like someone was calling my mom. We all looked at each other because she was hospitalized. So we went to her room and there was no one there. It turns out that 2 or 3 minutes later, we got a phone call saying she had passed away. 3 or 4 days later, her room remained exactly as it was, nightstands, photos, everything untouched. The bedroom, well, 3 or 4 days later, we were eating at the table again and we heard a noise coming from her room. We all looked at each other again. We went to the room and the bed where she used to sleep was all wrinkled. The bedspread and photos from the nightstand had fallen to the floor. Greetings to all and good night.
Greetings and good night, and thank you for being with us. A warm welcome to those who are just joining. We are live. You are listening to Pop 101.5. This is Paranormal Night. If you're listening live, you have a WhatsApp, 1127-84-1073, 1127-84-1073. As I just told you, trasnoshparanormal@gmail.com. Good evening to all the paranormal fans. My name is Nahuel Tolola, and I'm writing to tell you something that is not a story, it's a warning. This happened to me at La Croce and Rossetti. In the capital, there's a pharmacy now, but 13 years ago there was a former furniture store there that they were tearing down. I worked on the construction site. One day the foreman offered me to stay as a night watchman, more money in just a few hours. He told me nothing happens, it's quiet. I accepted without knowing what awaited me. From the first night, I understood that place wasn't empty. As soon as I lay down in the back, I heard footsteps. The living room was bare, without furniture, but you could hear clear, firm footsteps as if several people were walking at the same time. Then the sounds of tools started, banging, things dragging, something falling to the floor. I stayed still, my heart racing, waiting for thieves to come in. I didn't dare go out. I watched the door, waiting for a shadow. In the morning, I went out to check. Nothing was missing, but the tools weren't where we had left them. They had been moved, as if someone had been playing with everything during the night. The second night was worse. The footsteps came back. The lights started flickering. They would turn off and on by themselves, as if someone was playing with the switches. The atmosphere became heavy. I felt like I wasn't alone, even though there was no one there. I saw short shadows in the corners, always out of the corner of my eye. When I turned my head, they disappeared. I knew there was something there, but I kept quiet. I didn't want to lose my job. The night that broke me was the 7th. That day, I had dinner early. I put some cheeseburgers on a burner in the makeshift kitchen we had. Everything was normal until the air suddenly changed. The cold entering the building site was unusual. It wasn't the coolness of the night, it was a damp, heavy cold that seeped into my skin. I started to breathe out vapor inside the living room, and that's when I heard it. Chains behind me. The sound was clear. Metal dragged slowly, unevenly across the floor, coming closer. I was literally frozen, unable to move. I tried turning my head, but my neck wouldn't respond and my breath caught in my throat, as if someone squeezed my chest. I felt a hot breath on the back of my neck, hot, wet, pressed against my skin, and a deep, low growl in my ear. It didn't sound human. I slowly lifted my gaze toward the living room wall, unable to turn my body, and I saw him against the wall. There was a huge black shadow standing there. easily 2 meters tall. It didn't have a defined shape. Its outline moved as if it were vibrating. It wasn't my shadow. My back was to the light, so it couldn't be mine. It was just there, stuck on the wall. At that moment, my body reacted. I ran out without looking back. I ended up in an internet cafe a few blocks away, pale, shaking. The guy working there looked at me and told me to sit down. He asked if I came from the construction site. I said yes. He said I wasn't the first to end up there. So the cemetery is nearby, and that corner has always been a heavy place. He closed the shop, and I stayed outside the construction site for a while, afraid to go back in. When I finally gathered the courage, I went in. Everything was dark. I locked the door and went straight to the watchman's room. I sat on the bed in silence. After a while, the light turned on by itself just once. It stayed on. I thought it was over after the surge, but that's when things got worse. All the sight lights went out at once. I was left in the shadows and heard dozens or even hundreds of voices from the living room. Whispers, cries, laughter, and many footsteps. It sounded like there were people walking everywhere, but I knew I was alone. And suddenly, the spiral staircase that led to the upper floor started to vibrate. The steps sounded one after another. Fast, heavy going up. You could hear metal and weight, as if something was climbing with exaggerated force. Each step that was taken made the structure shake. I couldn't even cry, Héctor. I was barely breathing. When it reached the last step, they knocked on the door. A single loud, sharp knock. "Who is it?" I asked. "I didn't invite you." Silence. Another louder knock. "Go away." The third knock was so strong that the whole door shook, and there, right before my eyes, the handle started moving on its own. The door opened slowly without anyone touching it. There was nothing to see, just the hallway and the darkness behind. I ran out, almost jumping down the stairs. When I got to the living room, I stopped dead in my tracks. In the middle, standing there, was a little girl. She wore an old white dress down to her ankles, had straight dark hair, very pale skin, and she stood still, staring at me, not blinking. Her voice came out clear. "He won't let us leave." And she pointed upstairs. I looked up at the ceiling, and among the shadows for a second I saw 2 small sunken red eyes staring at me from above. There was no body, just the eyes inside the darkness. I felt that if I stayed there 1 second longer, I was going to lose my mind. I ran out again. That night I didn't sleep. I waited for dawn out on the street. The next day, I told the foreman I quit as night watchman. He laughed, said I was overreacting and just nervous, but I didn't argue. I left. In time, the construction was finished. They built the place. Today it's a pharmacy. People go in, buy things, and leave calmly. But those of us who worked there at night know that place was never empty. Something stayed locked inside. And it's not just one. Thank you, Héctor, for reading my story. A big hug to you and to the whole Tres Noche paranormal community.
Hi, Héctor. How are you? One time, I'll tell you really quickly. When I was 10 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night and San La Muerte was at my feet.
Whoa.
I was watching him for about 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes, really angry, and I pulled the blanket over my head and... When I uncovered myself, he was gone. Now I run out. And I go to my parents' room. They get up. I'm scared, crying. I told them and they tried to calm me down, saying it wasn't true. I don't know, a week went by and I talked to a girl who is from across the street, and she told me that she's coming forward because she wants to be your protector. It was up to me to accept it or not. And well, honestly, I didn't accept it. I respect him as a saint but prefer distance. After a while, I discovered a little altar to San La Muerte that my mom had hidden in the back of the house.
Whoa.
That's my story.
Well, thanks for telling it, huh? Thank you for joining us. Danny is live. Hi, Danny. How are you? Good evening. Oh, I can't hear you. Are you there? I can't hear you. We can't hear you, huh? We can't hear you. Check to see what could be wrong with the connection. 112784 1073. We're live there. 112784 1073. If you want to go on air, that's the WhatsApp. 112784 1073. Yamila, are you there? Hello, good evening.
Hello, Héctor.
How are you? Where are you from?
From Lomas.
From Lomas.
I've already talked to you.
Welcome. Oh, there's a really weird noise.
It's turning off now. It's the machine. It's turning off. Almost done.
All right. Do you have a story to share?
Yeah, it's super random. I'll sum it up for you. As kids, the 5 of us shared a room at my grandmother's house with 2 beds, a bunk bed, and a crib.
Sorry, wait. What's that machine? I'm curious.
No, it's nearly finished. The sewing machine is shutting down.
Okay.
It's finishing, okay?
It's a flying saucer, dear.
No, it's almost done.
Okay.
The machine's engine is shutting down. There it is. Listen, and every night you know how our parents used to send us to bed before 10. Before. Not like now, when we stay up until midnight. Well, anyway, in the summer, my siblings and I would go to bed, you know? And you'd lie down and the house would be all quiet and we'd look at the door and there was a tall man, like leaning on his shoulder. He'd cross his legs like he was cool. He was tall, but his face wasn't visible, only his shape. When I saw him, I'd cover up and sleep. My sister later said she saw him too, but it just stayed like that. Our parents ignored us. Anyway, a few years later, my grandmother, Connie Encarnacion, shows us some photos, you know? We were adults, about 20, and 10 or 15 years had gone by, I'm not sure. She brings us a bunch of photos she was cleaning. She brings us photos, a tall man with a similar build and everything. I said to her, Mom, this is the man, I told her. He used to watch us at night in the room as if caring for us. I can't explain it. I was never afraid of him, not like a ghost. I just saw him there. If you covered up, he'd disappear. I can't explain it. And it was her dad who died a long time ago. I didn't know he was my grandfather, you know, because I didn't know him.
Because you never got to meet him.
Of course, he had died a long time ago and my grandmother was cleaning. We were already grown up, 18, 19 years old. Mom, this is the man, I said. This is the man who used to watch us And Gabriela, my sister, said the same thing too. Yes, it's him because even though you couldn't see his face, he was a tall white man. He didn't scare you. I can't explain it.
Of course, it was a presence you could identify, but it wasn't terrifying.
Right, it wasn't like that. Like dark red eyes, random. No, it's like we grew up with all that. They say there are some people who can see them, and in my house, everyone sees that. Like there's a girl in the hallway who just passes by out of nowhere. Like a hallway, she just goes by. You know when people are passing by?
Yes.
But we're used to it already. We're not interested, let's say.
Of course.
And people from outside see it as something like, you all are delusional. No, I'm not delusional. I saw it. I was awake. I wasn't asleep.
Yes, thanks for sharing. It's good that the machine shut off and isn't running anymore.
Yes, it turned off.
It was making me crazy. Sending a kiss.
Kisses, Victor. See you later.
Bye. See you later. Thank you for joining us to talk live. You already know. 112784 1073. trasnocheparanormal@gmail.com. trasnocheparanormal@gmail.com.
Hello, Paranormals. I was a grenadier for many years at the Casa Rosada. I heard many stories from maintenance and co-workers who talked about the appearance of a little girl. They say the spirit of a little girl drowned years ago in the well in one of the government house courtyards. Next to that well, there are 2 very old benches, which used to be in the old plaza. One winter dawn, while I was on the 2nd floor, I looked down and saw the silhouette of a little girl sitting there. Other colleagues claim to have seen her in the museum, which is located in the old customs house. If someone goes to the museum, in the back there is a buffet that is not open. It's curious because the times it was opened, everything would fall down at night. In the recordings, you can always see the silhouette of the little girl.
Héctor Rossi never sleeps and neither do you. Paranormal
paranormal night. Horror movies have already taught us that sleeping can bring us nightmares.
1, 2, they're coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. 7, 8, don't sleep yet. 9, 3, you'll never sleep.
Hi, Hector. It's already been 11 years together. We're a big family. As a teenager in Salta, I walked along the train tracks around 2 in the morning. Suddenly, I saw a young girl coming about my age at the time. It seemed strange to me, but without hesitating, I told her, "I'll walk you home." She looked at me, smiled, and kept walking. I stopped and said to her, "Aren't you afraid to walk alone?" She turned, and I saw her ruined, wrinkled face with empty eyes. It scared me terribly. I made the sign of the cross, lowered my head, and started walking quickly toward home. The weeds on the side were moving back and forth as if a lot of people were running. I didn't want to look. When I got to the slope by my house, I saw the woman standing there. I swear I walked past and ran to my friend's house, banging on the door. Don Lopez, my friend's grandfather, got up and asked what was happening. I told him what happened. The parents looked at me and I was scared until Don Lopez said, "When I was a kid, I saw her on the tracks, too, in the same place. She shows up every now and then. She's the Black Widow."
Hector, how are you? My name is Silvana, and I wanted to tell you a story from when my aunt passed away. I was 20 years old. She died in the middle of winter. July, cold, cold, dreadful. The night she died, they took me to bed because I had already spent several nights awake. And I dream of her coming in through the window, floating with a beautiful golden light behind her. And I said to her, "Aren't you dead?" She tells me, "Don't worry, I'm fine." We were really close. She was the aunt who spoiled you with everything, you know? With me, she was so sweet. She really was. The thing is, after the funeral, my sister and I went to her house to quote unquote make some of her things disappear, to hide them in a shed. Because, you know, there's always that out-of-town relative who wants to take things. They had mentioned it, and my aunt was one of those who still had those hand-embroidered trousseaux. You know, anyway, the sisters-in-law were already rubbing their hands ready to take the things. And we said no way because we knew my aunt didn't want that, right? Well, the thing is, my sister and I went in. Into the house, we entered, locked the door, walked maybe 2 or 3 meters, and felt someone opening the front door behind us. I thought it was my dad. I went to open it, but there was no one there. Oh, it was drizzling, a light rain. The afternoon was awful, really. We started figuring out how to pack things into boxes to store them. And then I said to my sister, "Hey, where could Auntie's lilac sweater be? She had knitted herself a beautiful sweater." Boom, a thump in a trunk. We opened the trunk. There was the sweater. And that's where I started. Oh, I love all this. I started, where could that thing be? Boom, we heard a thump in the wardrobe, opened it, and it was there. That's when I started asking, where is it? Thump, thump, little knock, little knock, little knock. We were looking for things. My sister didn't seem very happy about the situation. At one point, I had my back to the wardrobe door, which you had to push hard to open. The wardrobe door opens and hits my back. My sister almost fainted, so I said to her, "Well, look, cut it out with the little joke because you don't scare me, but you do scare her, so that's it." That night, I dreamed about her. I dreamed about my aunt for 5 years, you know. From then on, and always sunny days, beautiful, beautiful. The days when I see her with her background, let's say it was already daytime. At that moment, we were at her house in that first dream with her. And I say, "Hey, aunt, do you know that we came to your house?" Yes, it's okay. She told me. And I say to her, "We're looking for the sheets." And she looks at me and says, "Don't act crazy, okay? You know exactly which sheets are yours and which are your sister's, since she divided the inheritance while alive." "No, yes, we already have them. I don't know." So she opens the closet door for me and says, "Look, don't take this. Leave it for grandma, for her mom." She says, They're fabric pieces, the single bed sheets that I didn't finish. They're just basted. Well, I told her, you're not dead. No, don't worry, I'm fine, she told me. Whenever I tried to hug or talk, the dream ended. Just like those. We've had for 5 years, huh? He always had dreams where he'd tell me one thing, then something else. When I went to the cemetery, I would arrive at where she was buried and the dove would come to me. Anyway, always I felt very accompanied by her, and in fact, we've had conversations. In dreams, about different situations. I don't know things about the family. 5 years after she passed away, I dreamed about her. My grandmother, her mother, had also passed away. I always dream about her in her house. I may not have mentioned it, but the dream is always set there.
What?
She was standing at the patio door and she says to me, "We're going on a trip," referring to herself and my grandmother. And she points her finger up and says, "We're going to ask him to let us stay a little longer." I don't know what she meant by that. Part of the dream, I don't know. They were going to ask for permission a bit longer. I'm not sure if it was to stay connected with us or if the trip would be longer. The thing is, I interpreted that I wasn't going to see her, again for a long time. I told her, "Hold on, since you're leaving, before you go, teach me how to make fig jam because the tree is full and nobody knows how to make it." She goes into her kitchen, leans on the counter, puts her hand on her chin and starts thinking. And she says to me, 36 figs, 11 tablespoons of sugar. Then she comes over to where I am. I hug her, which was the only dream where I could touch her. I hugged her tightly. She looks at me, gives me a smile, and sits next to me at the table. And I say to her, "Are you my guardian angel?" And she says to me, "I am your angel of light. Wherever you are, I am there." It happened. The dream ends. I wake up in the morning, I rush over to her house, I gather the figs and make the recipe. 36 figs, 11 tablespoons of sugar. And the jam turned out just like she used to make it, exactly the same. That's when my dad told me, "Now I believe that all this time you were talking to her. Because she told me things that were going to happen in the house, or to be careful with this or that." Anyway, it would be a very, very long recording.
That's a great story though, huh?
But the thing is, the lady gave me the fig jam recipe and it turned out exactly the same. I'm convinced that those who go before us come back to visit. And I'll tell you something, just very briefly. Well, then my dad passed away. Anyway, with him, well, I have a lot of stories, but I'll tell you the last one that happened to me. I was taking care of a lady who had cancer. And in her final days, she was very lucid, but she couldn't walk anymore. In fact, she was already in a wheelchair and everything. So I took her to the patio and she was very lively, even though night was coming. And actually, she couldn't wait for the night to arrive, right? So I was tending to the plants in the patio and I said to her, "Hey, Agatha, now when you go to the other side." And she looked at me, I said to her, "You have to come and let me know that you arrived safely and that everything is okay. Don't leave me here with no news." And she looks at me and says, yes. No, I'm being serious. And she says, "Me too. I'll come and let you know that I arrived safely." An 86-year-old lady tells me, and I say to her, "Well, over there at the gate of the other neighborhood," I tell her, "your husband and son will be waiting." I tell her they are the ones who will welcome you so you don't arrive alone in the new neighborhood. And she says to me, "Do you think so?" "Yes, I'm convinced," I tell her confidently, "that they are the ones who will be waiting for you." And she looks at me and says, "But don't I have to go through purgatory first?" "Purgatory? What purgatory?" I told her to stop messing with that and we'd laugh. She had a beautiful patio full of plants and flowers. Her house's patio was really lovely. And I said to her, "Your patio is beautiful," right? Because it was just when spring had just started. It was in September of this year. She told me, yes, the roses were blooming. Everything was beautiful and the orange tree was full of blossoms. And I said to her, "You know what?" I said to her, "This is nothing compared to everything you're going to see when you get there." She says, "Oh, yeah, right?" I reply, "It's nothing, not even close." I tell her to remember. She answers, "No, yes. When I get there, she says, "I'll let you know that I arrived safely." That conversation was on a Friday. The following Thursday, she passed away. On Friday, I was at home in the afternoon and I felt her come into the room. "Silvana, Silvana, Silvana, Silvana." I said to her, "Are you here already?" I said, "I swear." I thought, I'm crazy. That's what I thought, right? And I said to her, "Seriously, are you here already?" "Yes, I came to let you know I'm fine," she told me. So I started crying because I loved her so much and thought I was going crazy. I pleaded, "Give me a sign, for God's sake, show me it's you." And the bottle of nose drops falls down. Meanwhile, she tells me, "Here it says it was him, because one day when I walked into the room, I saw a man in her room, and when I described him, it was her dad." She shows me a picture and it was the man I had seen. And she tells me it really was him. I tell her, "Well, me, anxious," I say, "you didn't waste any time coming to let me know. Now I hope you're really at peace and you can move on." So, well, I didn't dream about her anymore. I didn't feel her presence anymore. But she came to let me know that she had crossed over to the other side. See you, dear?
See ya.
Sorry it got so long, but well, I still need to tell you someday about everything I went through with my dad after he passed away. Kisses. See you. Bye.
See you. Your stories are beautiful too, you know? I love them. I loved meeting you too. How are you, Hector? How are you doing? I want to share something that happened when my grandmother died, and it's still hard to recall. She was in very bad shape, almost dying in her room. I was next to the bed, watching her breathe more and more slowly. There was no one else in the room, just her and me. The television was off, the window was closed, everything was silent. At one point, I couldn't stand seeing her like that anymore, and in a low voice, I said something that came from my soul. "Grandpa, come get her. Don't let her suffer anymore." My grandpa had already passed away years ago. Right after I said that, something unexplainable happened. The ornaments on my grandma's dresser started moving all at once. It wasn't a gentle tremor, you know. You could clearly hear the sound of things sliding, bumping into each other. Perfume bottles, little frames, figurines, everything vibrating and moving as if someone had run their hand over them. There was no wind and nothing was touched. I just stood there, frozen and speechless. At that very moment, my grandmother took her last breath. Her breathing stopped all of a sudden. I looked at her and I knew she was gone. Nobody told me. I was there. I saw it. I heard it. For me, that day, my grandfather really came to get her. And something made itself felt in that room. So that I would know, I send you a big hug. This story is real.
Hey, I'm Maria. How are you? I wanted to talk about my husband, who passed away 3 years ago. He was hospitalized. I had stayed at my nephew's house, who was helping me with the funeral arrangements. At that time, the building manager called me, saying that the doorbell in our apartment was ringing non-stop. Obviously, I didn't go at that moment. A week later, I returned home and my sister came to stay with me. That night, the doorbell rang non-stop. We got scared. I didn't want to open the door, so I called a friend who had a key to the building next door. He came up and sure enough, there was no one there. We disconnected the doorbell. We thought my husband didn't want to leave. Since he passed away, I noticed that ladybugs appear in unusual places, even inside a bus. I'm sure it's him, as if he's saying, "I'm here watching over you." It's like having an angel who appears at unexpected moments.
Sylvia, are you live? Good evening. How are you?
Hello, good evening. Everything's fine.
Welcome. Where are you from?
Thank you. I'm from Villa del Parque, the capital.
Okay, well, we're listening. Let's hear your story.
Well, look. My husband passed away in 2006. And well, a lot of paperwork going back and forth. For one of the errands, I go to ANSYS. I leave, I wait for the bus at Humboldt and Santa Fe on Humboldt. There was a parking lot for cars nearby. Well, I was alone waiting for the bus. The bus wasn't coming, it just wasn't coming. I would walk down the street and look for the bus. It wasn't coming. And then a tow truck showed up, one of those, you know, those long trucks, pickup trucks, the long ones.
Yes.
Well, I looked. It was further ahead, right? Almost reaching Santa Fe. I kept going down, saw nothing, went up onto the sidewalk. So the last time I go down to the street, I look, and someone whispers in my ear and says, "Get up on the sidewalk just in case something happens to you."
Whoa.
I get up on the sidewalk. The truck comes off the tow truck and takes off, but that's because it was already up there. You know how they end up tilted? It takes off really fast. It goes right past me. I was already up on the curb. And it backs into the garage and ends up there between the sidewalk and the garage. I looked around. I looked everywhere. I was alone. I said, "Who spoke to me?" No, it was crazy. It saved my life. That's how it saved my life.
A super angel, correct?
Well, listen to this. Another day I was reading angel books, a book about angels that's really beautiful. They're testimonies, but I'm not a girl. I didn't take communion or believe in anything, but I read that book and honestly loved it. I'm going to run an errand on Sarmiento Street to see a lawyer, but I don't know which floor he was on. I leave there, take the elevator, and at one point, the elevator stops. A person with very white, very short hair gets in, stands in front of me. He closes the door, stands in front of me, looks at me smiling and says, "Hi, I'm an angel." And I was just, when you get shocked, I just stared at her. We got to the ground floor, opened the door, and she disappeared. I swear to you, I really do. I went out to the street and looked. I didn't see her anymore. I said she was an angel, and I'm telling you, I don't believe in any of that. She was an angel. I don't know. All the things that have happened to me, beautiful things, but also really horrible ones. But I don't know. I never forget those things. The one who whispered to me saved my life, and that angel who said, "Hi, I'm an angel," then laughed, showing her teeth.
Explicitly. Also, she introduced herself. Thanks, Che. Sending you a big kiss. Thanks for sharing with us, Sylvia.
All right, me too. A big kiss, and well, have a nice day.
Same to you. Angels do exist. That's the number of people who have had similar experiences, just like Sylvia described. Very explicit ones. Of an angel who helps you, who saves your life, literally. Héctor, good evening. I want to share something that happened with my son, which felt completely supernatural. In 2001, I had a baby who weighed 1.5 kilos. His name is Kevin. At 5 months old, he had a 3rd-degree bronchiolitis emergency. They put him in an ambulance with the siren on and took him to the Independencia Clinic in Monroe. They took him straight to intensive care when we arrived. That's where the nightmare begins. They sedate him and intubate him. His lungs were badly damaged, and he could hardly breathe alone. Machines, monitors, and alarms filled the room. I saw him so tiny and covered in wires, and I couldn't hold him. On the 3rd day, the intensive care unit doctor confronted me in the hallway. I'll never forget the look on her face. She told me straight out that my baby wouldn't make it through the night, that he was in very serious condition. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath me. I'm a believer, and right there in that cold hallway, I begged God with desperate tears. I spoke to him as I always did, using familiar words. I told him that I was doing my part, but I was leaving the rest in his hands, that he shouldn't take my son from me. I stayed there until I couldn't take the exhaustion anymore. At 6 in the morning, I went to work anyway, because at that time I was working in Florida and I couldn't afford to lose my job. I left broken, believing he wouldn't be alive when I returned. At noon, around 12, I go back to the clinic with my heart in my mouth. I go up to intensive care trembling, expecting the worst. And then they tell me something that doesn't make sense. Your baby has already been moved to the ward. He's in the room. I just stared at him without understanding. I thought they were talking about another kid. I went up anyway. I went to the room and there he was, without a ventilator, without so many wires, breathing on his own. The doctors were confused. They said he suddenly improved without explanation and that it sometimes happens. In the report, they didn't even know what to write, but I understood. For me, it was a miracle. I know what I asked for that night, I know how I asked for it, and I know the state I left him in. Today, my son is a 24-year-old man. He's alive, he's well, and every time I look at him, I remember that phrase from the doctor. He won't make it through the night. And here he is. Thank you, Hector, for reading me and for this community. My story is real.
Tell us your paranormal story live by calling 1127 84 1073. Record it in audio and send it by WhatsApp to 1127 84 1073.
We're still on Paranormal Night. It's time for conspiracy theories, and today we're talking about a topic that really interests you all. But for this, I want to welcome our friend Maribel Gamas. How are you, Mari? Welcome.
Very well, Manita. Thank you so much. Once again, I love being on this show. I also want to greet our paranormal friends who are on the other side. And well, I'm happy to be here once again with information that won't let us sleep at night.
I'm telling you, today, the requests and comments are pouring in about the topic you brought, which is captivating.
It's captivating. We're going to talk about one of the most intriguing exorcism cases ever recorded in history. You know that in this space we also like to talk about mysteries, things that were left unexplained, and this one is really intense. We'll discuss Annalise Mitchell. It's a disturbing story, but very well documented, right? Unlike some other mysteries that maybe aren't really mysteries at all. Well, this one does have a lot of documentation. It has some really creepy recordings, and let me make a parenthesis here and say I call them paranormal. I intended to bring the audio recordings, but I felt it wasn't the right thing to do, and it wouldn't be responsible. We know that using these kinds of audios can sometimes cause strange things to happen. So we're going to take it easy and just talk about what this story is about, right?
All right.
This true story inspired movies, medical debates, and religious investigations. Nearly 50 years later, it still divides...
Unresolved.
Of course, and it still divides science and faith. Everything, absolutely everything we're going to tell you is documented. Her name is Annalise Mitchell. She was a 23-year-old German woman, a student and very religious. She had a normal life, and one day she began to show inexplicable symptoms. The first medical diagnosis given to this girl was that she had epileptic seizures and psychiatric disorders. A little kiss and off to her home. There wasn't a single treatment that managed to stabilize her. The inexplicable phenomena are starting. The witnesses described that she began to have an extreme aversion to religious objects, and she had disproportionate physical strength. She would growl, make voices in different tones, which is really striking when a possessed person starts speaking in a tone that's completely outside their own vocal range.
And even in other languages.
And in other languages, exactly, like a language the person never studied, and suddenly they start speaking it. Well, this also started happening to her. She had demonic visions and self-destructive behaviors. She would hurt herself. Her own family claims that it wasn't her, that there was something inside her body speaking through it. They didn't know how to explain it, and they didn't know where it came from either, but they felt it and saw it. The church started intervening. Because of that, right? A formal exorcism was authorized. We know that performing an exorcism isn't that easy. You have to have authorization from the Vatican and many other things. They managed to get it because all these symptoms were so strong that, well, they were finally given permission, right? 2 priests began to conduct the sessions, and they lasted 10 months. Monita, just imagine the anguish of the family, of the parents, having to endure such an intense burden for so long, right? A total of 67 rituals were performed. All of them, Mona, were recorded on audio. You, paranormal enthusiasts, if you want to know more about this information, you can look it up. Everything is uploaded on YouTube. You can listen to them very carefully with protection. Try to do it during the day.
So you won't get too disturbed, right?
Yes, we make that recommendation so you don't get too disturbed, precisely because in addition she mentions different types of demons, right? Lucifer, Cain, Neon, Judas, and many other completely unnameable spirits. But well, that's over 67 rituals, right? Finally, Annalise stopped eating because she was convinced that something inside her wouldn't let her keep eating. The images of Annalisa at this point already show her physical deterioration. They are very intense. Also, if you look them up on the internet, they are images that are very painful, very sad, but also disturbing because we know all of that happened to her as a result of this possession. Her body weakened as the episodes intensified, right? She died on July 1st, 1976, weighing 30 kilos.
That's crazy.
Practically just what her bones weighed. She passed away in very sad conditions. And, the autopsy showed that she simply had severe malnutrition and self-inflicted marks. She didn't have any disease visible to science. And, Annalisa's parents and priests were tried for negligent homicide. The doctors claimed during that time that it was simply a poorly treated mental illness. The church maintains, imagine here it's science versus the church, right? The church definitely said, there are clear signs of possession and that's why 67 rituals were performed. We're not going to perform 67 rituals for nothing, right?
Exactly.
The verdict, because there was a verdict against the parents, was guilty with a reduced sentence. There is a debate that continues to this day. Was it a medical error or a real phenomenon? The recordings, as I was saying, are chilling. There we find tones of voice that are completely beyond the reach of female anatomy. Sudden changes of language, growls, phrases that also don't match the clinical picture the doctors mentioned, right? One of the recorded phrases said, "Pray for the young." They believe it's all psychological. She said that during those trances, during those sessions they did to her. So the question remains, it's not known if Annalisa was really possessed. And everything that case taught us, it's not everything we understand. What we don't understand is madness, and not everything we fear is supernatural. And Annalisa's voice was forever trapped in these tapes that we can still listen to today. And no explanation was ever found for this. I say, look, at the time we had, for example, the Valikas case. In the Valikas case, the girl used the Ouija board, but they interrupted the session. You say that makes sense. Something similar didn't happen with Annalisa. This happened all of a sudden.
Suddenly?
Exactly. So, this remains a very heartbreaking, very sad, and also terrifying mystery. For those who want to look for more information, you can do so, like in the case of Annalisa Mitchell. And, if you want to know more or want to ask me something, you can do so on my social media. You can find me as Lokumaribelok on Instagram. We can stay in touch there.
See you next time, Mari.
Thank you.
I'm going to greet Dr. Chamoy, who's live. Hi, good evening. How are you?
Very good evening, Hector. Very good evening to everyone.
Welcome. Where are you from?
Thank you. From Mexico City.
Okay. Well, welcome again, and we're listening to you. We're listening, so let's see. What do you have to tell us?
Look, I have 1,000 stories, but I was very connected to you and with a very peculiar situation that I was going through in 2016 because I've been following you since you were on the radio.
That one. That's great.
Let me tell you. Back then I had a story, or rather you told it, you made it part of this radio show about Juan Ramon. Do you remember him?
The hairy hand.
Correct, exactly.
The name of the main story was The Paranormal Host.
That's correct. So I don't know how many emails you received back then, but I was one of the first people who sent it to you, I think. To make a long story short, back then I was going through a situation involving gender-based violence. I filed a report, the whole story. For safety, I had to go to a shelter, to a home where we have refuge for mothers and so on. But anyway, in those places you have to give up all your belongings. It's like a prison. The person who should be inside was free and everything was reversed. They took everything from us. Back then, I always carried a small radio. That was, let's say, my connection to Earth, to the world, because of everything I just told you about. I don't know why I didn't turn in that radio specifically. It slipped my mind and so on. At night, I, always faithful to listening to you every night, turned on the radio hidden, afraid that the caretakers would take them away from me. My son is also a loyal follower of yours. Well, I told him that I had sent an email and I said maybe at some point you would read it and maybe if we were lucky you would tell the story. What do you think, Héctor? That first night we spent in that place, I heard the story. No, I mean, the radio for me is like that radio was invisible to everyone, even to me. And when I heard the story, I was filled with so much emotion, and so was my son because I said, it's something I still can't explain.
Definitely a great synchronicity. A big wink from the universe. In this case, I think I was a channel to give you that sign, right? That you're making good decisions ultimately.
Definitely. And coming from all this topic, tired from pain, from sadness, from taking care of my son, from protecting him from something horrible but really horrible things, and hearing that story about my country in your voice from someone we follow, at that moment it was like a relief, you know? It was hopeful, like saying if someone listened to us, if someone read us, I know that in our situation someone will listen to us, someone will read us, someone above is giving us signs. So even today in 2025, Héctor, we are freeing ourselves from this. Today we are waiting for a document so we can leave this country where I am, which is your country, Argentina. We have been imprisoned in this country.
How incredible.
We have been full of injustice. That's why I won't give you my name.
Okay.
For safety, but we're just days from returning to Mexico.
Okay.
Freedom is ours, it's just paperwork now.
Wow, your story is mysterious. But I understand that for legal reasons you don't want to tell it, but I'm really curious. Well, I'm glad that you can get your life back on track.
Yes, with my son already grown up, we are on our path to start a new life, but I wanted see how cycles come to a close. I began this with you and will finish it with you.
It started in Mexico and ends in Argentina. How crazy.
I'm from Mexico City. No, so I followed you on your trips to Mexico during Day of the Dead and all this story, and I'm going to... When I'm there, I'll contact you again and tell you my whole story, Héctor.
Thank you very much for that.
The paranormal stories I've had both here in Argentina and in my country. And I want to wrap all this up by thanking you for being that companion on those nights when anxiety, when sadness, when pain, when even death itself was present. Thanks to God, heaven, the angels, or whatever you call it, my son and I have always been protected. And you have been part of this story.
Thank you for telling me. Sending a big kiss and safe travels back.
Thank you, and we'll stay in touch somehow. Héctor, a big kiss and blessings to you and everyone.
Big kiss, bye 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 bye. The same thing this woman told me first. I get really shocked every time people say these things to me. Don't think it's normal or natural for me to receive these words. I'm left speechless. But then, the other day at the theater, during the last show at the Piccadilly, a lot of people told me the same thing. All 300 people stayed. Many told me you were there then. You were the voice on the radio. That's why I love radio. Look, today the ratings came in. It's a minor detail, maybe for you. And you don't necessarily have to care about it as much as I do. But I don't take it as a I won thing either. I take it as it's great that this is happening. Today the ratings came in, and the Paranormal Night keeps going up in viewership. More and more people are listening to us. In the overall ratings, we're third. But if we look at Monday to Friday, actually from Monday to Thursday, we're second. So we're second. That's impressive. We decided not to air on Fridays, but just so you get an idea, from Monday to Thursday, we're second. Sunday is harder to measure, but I take on the challenge easily. Pero Amanece Pop, which is my other show where I read my stories, it's currently second, but we're making progress and will reach first place. Thank you all. More and more people are listening to the content on the platforms, in the theater, and it's affection. That's love. It's a community, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And if someone thinks I'm arrogant, I don't give a damn. I thank you, my community, who follow me in everything I do. Here on the radio, on streaming, in the theater, when I write a book. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, because we are people. I'm also a person, you know, and I'm fulfilling my dream, and you are part of it. That's why I thank you. I thank each and every one of you on the other side, every night, in every moment, and every one of the crazy things we do together. Claudio is live with us. Hello, Claudio. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. How are you, Héctor?
I'm good, man. Welcome. We're listening to you.
Look, I have a story from 30 years ago that I haven't. It gives me goosebumps because it happened at a club with a friend and he went crazy because we were at the dance and he met a girl. He was dancing all night. He was dancing with her the whole night. And well, the time came for us to leave. We got her in the car, took her home, and she forgot a couple of things in the car. I mean, the next day when we went in the car, her things were there, and he said, well, let's take them to her. We got there, knocked on the door, and her father and mother came out. The girl's name was Janina, and he said, is Janina here? And the guy gave him a dirty look.
They shot at you, right? Of course, because she's the one with the jacket. We already know this story by heart. They've been telling me this story since I was a kid. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, yes, I really appreciate it. The spirit of Diego Rojo took over Paranormal late night, over the Paranormal night. Please stop telling me that story about her forgetting the jacket and going to her father's house. I don't want to hear it again. No, don't tell me that. Because it's all a lie. It's an urban legend. It's all good though, okay? I appreciate your enthusiasm. But please share real stories from your own experience, okay? Don't tell me legends. I've already told all of them myself anyway. I've already told all those stories. 14 years of the show, I've told absolutely everything, all of that. Everything that's on the internet. I've already told it on air. So let's go with unpublished stories. That's what we like. We do a show to hear new stories, okay? 11/27/84/1073. 11/27/84/1073. There's more. Hello, Hector. My name is Rosa. This was between 1949. Ha 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 ha. Sorry, dear, sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm going back to the paranormal mood. Wait. Hi, Hector, I'm Rosa. This was between 1949 and 1950, in the countryside, in a place called Monte Florido, in Corrientes. When I was 7 or 8, I lived with my grandparents and siblings. The nearest houses were almost a kilometer away. At night, you couldn't hear anything there. Just bugs and maybe an animal. One day my grandmother got sick and died. My grandfather, so that I wouldn't see her dead because I was the closest to her, he took me to a neighbor's house. I stayed there while they held the wake and the burial. At that time, there were no phones or anything. I didn't know what had happened. It was only several days later that they told me my grandmother had died. When I found out, I broke down crying and stayed like that for days, sad with a terrible emptiness. I felt like she had been taken away from me overnight. One night, about a week after it happened, my grandfather sent me to the shed to get some things. The shed was a bit far from the house. It was dark with a high ceiling full of tools, bags, and old stuff. I went alone with a small flashlight. As soon as I walked in, I felt a strange chill. I took a few steps, raised the flashlight, and there I saw her. A shining figure appears in front of me. It was like a person, but made entirely of light. I couldn't see the face clearly, but I could see the shape of the body. The light was coming out from everywhere. Strong and white, it was standing in the middle of the shed, looking at me, not moving. Fear struck me suddenly. I couldn't scream or run, and I fainted. My grandfather, when he saw I wasn't coming back, went to look for me. He found me lying on the floor of the shed, cold and unwell. He picked me up in his arms and took me to the house. When I came to, I told him what I had seen. I said there was a shining figure standing there looking at me. He stayed quiet, thoughtful. He didn't laugh. He didn't tell me it was my imagination. He stayed serious. A few days went by. I kept doing my chores. One afternoon, they sent me on horseback to check on the cows. As always, I had to cross a ravine, and the horse already knew the way. When we got to the middle of the ravine, the horse abruptly halted and refused to move. And there, right in front of us in the water, I see something coming up. It was a figure like a white virgin, rising upright from the water without splashing, without a sound, her face calm, but her gaze fixed. She was in front of the horse. She didn't speak, she was just there, standing in the middle of the ditch, looking at me. The horse froze, so did I. Not a single tear came out, I couldn't even breathe. Time felt endless. I didn't know if minutes or hours had passed. We both remained frozen. The horse stood with its legs rooted to the ground and I couldn't move my arms. Since I didn't return home, my grandfather came out to look for me. He found me in the middle of the ditch, stiff, staring straight ahead, and the horse just as frozen. When I came to, I told him everything. I told him what I had seen, that this figure had come out of the water like a virgin and wouldn't let us move forward. My grandfather listened and told me something unforgettable. It's your grandmother. She wants you to visit her. The next day he took me to the cemetery. He left me at my grandmother's grave. He placed several candles around and told me, "I'll come back for you. When the last candle burns out, you'll stay here with her." I spent the whole day there, sitting in front of the cross, watching the candles, crying, praying, talking to her as if she were alive. As they went out one by one, my fear started to mix with a strange feeling like saying goodbye. When the last candle burned out, my grandfather appeared. I stood up. I looked at her one last time and we left. After that day, nothing strange happened with her again. I never saw her in the shed. No one came out of the water again. No figure of light appeared again. I always said the same thing. My grandmother was upset because I wasn't at her wake or her funeral. She wanted me to see her, to recognize her, and to say goodbye to her as I should have. That day at the cemetery, I feel like she was finally able to leave in peace.
Hi, Héctor and Manita. This is Jorge. How are you? Apparently, I have a deity that protects me, and I know this because I did a regression when I was 6 or 7 years old. I met a person named Angelina, which matches the name of the deity. Also, I previously met a girl whose name was Zoe, and I am certain that later on I will have 2 daughters with that name. Angelina, I dream about her from time to time. She shows me a sign that I can never quite see, but I'm sure it's her and she's coming to me.
Greetings from Rosario.
I greet Elias, who is live with us. Hello, Elias. Good evening. How are you doing?
Hello, good evening. Well, thank you for letting me speak, and well, congratulations on the show you have, really well.
I was also listening to the topic about the radio. You were talking about the radio, the ratings. That's good. And you can sense it from people who've worked in radio. I always say radio is like therapy. Radio helped me a lot. When I was younger, I did radio until recently, and I always did it as a kind of therapy also.
Yeah, exactly. Good point, man. Yeah, really, huh?
It helped me. There are people who seem to cling to alcohol or bad things. For me, I remember when I had when I ended up alone, let's say, I clung to the radio, and for me, it was the best thing.
That's great, Che.
So, well, congratulations. Well, something paranormal among all the things I've been through. That's why I believe what people say. Well, there's truth and lies, right? Also, like I was about to tell you about that guy you just interrupted.
And he was kind of like a ghost, right?
Yeah, as soon as he started talking, I realized, I said, that's the well-known story of Hotel California.
Of course, we've heard it 40 times, did you see?
So, well, let's see. What can I tell you? Well, something that happened to me just recently, this year, you know. I had an aunt whom I loved and still love as if she were my mother. She passed away overnight.
She was fine. Well, she was older. She was about 90, 85, around there, and like never before.
Well, that month, I was taking pictures of her. I was obsessed with taking her pictures because I felt something bad. Like she could leave you, right? An aunt, a mother, well. I was in a hurry to take her pictures. I don't know why. Well, and I told her, joking, Aunt, if one day you die, never come and pull my feet. I said, if you want, show up in a dream, whatever you want, but don't come and pull my feet or anything because I'm really, really scared about that. Not saying anything else, you know? And she laughed. Well, the thing is that my aunt, suddenly had a stroke overnight. She was hospitalized, in her final agony. She ended up in intensive care. She told me, that she loved me.
She was asking about a little girl I had, that I actually have a...
With my first partner, and with my second partner, I have a 3-year-old boy. 2 years and something. Not yet. Look, I didn't realize so much time had passed. My little boy hadn't been born yet. There were still a few days left before he was born, and she was making some clothes for him. You know, those ladies who make clothes, who like to knit.
Yeah.
She was making a little outfit for the baby, and I was excited for her to meet me, since I already knew it was a boy and everything, and I was excited for her to meet my baby. When he's born, it turns out that, she died before my baby was born. I thank God was able to say goodbye. I was able to say goodbye during her final moments. She had a stroke, pneumonia. It all hit her at once. She was gone overnight. I always remembered, and I used to joke with her, telling her not to pull my legs and to appear in my dreams if she wanted to say something. That was probably the clearest thing that ever happened to me. In a dream, let's say, very real. It turns out that I, a few days later was sleeping. And my name is Elias Perez. As an adult, everyone knows me as Elias Perez, and when I was a kid, they called me Juan, because that's my first name, and those who call me Juan are people who have known me since I was little or someone who knows me very well. Otherwise, nobody knows that my name is Juan. I was sleeping, and in that deep sleep I was having, my aunt appeared to me in a dream and spoke to me as if I were awake. I realized that I was asleep, but I couldn't wake up. She says to me, Juancito, she says, today before you get up, she says to me, go and check on my sister Damiana's son and check how he is. I get up, on top of that, she says to me, before you go do anything tomorrow, she says, when you get up, she says, check how my sister Damiana's son is doing. I go and ask my mom, I wake up the next day and I tell my mom a bit. Who is Damiana? I say to her, no, Damiana is, she's my nephew. She says, Aurelia's son. Another aunt, you see? I go and tell the girl, my cousin, if she could go check on how her brother was doing, because my aunt in that dream told me that they were going to hurt his hand, like they were going to do him harm. I went and told my cousin this guy's sister. And yes, that night they had caught him and hurt his hand. They had cut my cousin's hand. That was one. The next day, I was feeling really bad because I had dreamed about her and everything. And I was really sad because my baby had been born and I couldn't introduce him to her. And she appeared to me clearly in a dream, but it felt like it was real. She says to me, Juancito, don't worry. She says, I've already met him, you see? But it was so real that honestly it's hard to believe because hardly anyone calls me Juan. And I didn't feel scared, nothing. I felt like it was a farewell, you know? And that's what it was.
And I really think it was. Elias, it's been a pleasure having you, man. I send you a big hug.
So, that's the healthiest thing. I'll tell you another day. And thanks for this wonderful show you have. And for giving people the opportunity to express themselves in this way, to share something that happened to them, or if not, that it also serves as encouragement for many things to move forward. I heard that listening to you really helps people.
That's true. We achieved several goals. Thanks, Elias.
So, congratulations, and I'm going to follow you more. And may God bless you from Campana in Buenos Aires.
Same to you, Elias. A hug. Congratulations. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for your words. Speaking of congratulations, I'll be live on December 24th, Christmas Eve. I'll spend it here on the radio with you. And the 31st too, I want to say that I asked for it, okay? I asked the radio. I want to do the 31st. First, I told Persia, and then I asked, hey, do you have anything on the 24th? And we're looking into it. I also want to do the 24th live. Honestly, I want to thank you all for this year of positive energy, and I hope to be on air those 2 days, which matter to many people. I'm not sure my presence will help much, but for now, let's have fun. December 24th live. I'll tell you the time later, but it's going to be right before midnight and on December 31st. We say farewell to 2025 and welcome 2026 together on Pop. These shows won't be paranormal but fun, with music to enjoy Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve together on Pop, as always. Alright, huh? Yeah, I think it's historic to do the 31st live with you all, huh? Thank you for being here. We're live with more stories. 11/27/84/1073.
Hi guys, I'm Gaston from Torcato. One night around 1 a.m., my girlfriend and I went out to hang the laundry. The unsettling thing about the backyard was its complete darkness. There was no light. After a while of hanging some clothes, next to the sheets we saw a horrible face among the weeds. It was really ugly. It was just the face without a body. Immediately, both of us, we were shocked by the sight. A chill ran down our spines and she turned pale and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, there was no one there.
Go Héctor Rossi with Pop 101.5.
Hi, Hector. This is Florencia Varela. Go Pop Santa Rosa. Better than Chucky? Go Pop, which is
Better, Hector.
Better than Chucky.
turn off the television masks. Hang in there. Yes, from the Republic of Argentina. Long live Pop, damn it. Let's go, all you cuckolds. Turn off the television, friends. Listen to Héctor. Heaven can wait, but Pop can't wait.
Oscar de Castillo, Héctor, I'm with you working hard. Oscar from Lomas, let's go.
Let's go, Rossi, damn it, son of a bitch.
Go, Rosie. Here for the pana, listening to you. Say hi to the beautiful lady next to you, my love, beautiful.
From Tito, my love.
Héctor, stop making me trip out with Chucky. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? What do you want me? What do you want me to do for me?
12 o'clock at night in the Argentine Republic. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Marcelo D'Alessio, welcome. Let's see if they stay with you and who. And I'll be back in a little while. At 4 in the morning to do Amanes Pop together on Wednesday, December 10th. Yes, there are many of us and we're all crazy. Bye.